Hello, future doctors. I am your professor, and today we will be talking about your leadership qualities. Okay, we will be discussing about different leadership styles and other concepts related to leadership. Let's begin. What is leadership style? A leadership style refers to a leader's characteristic behaviors when directing, motivating, guiding, and managing groups of people to accomplish the mission and improving the organization. A leader's style is sometimes dependent on the situation. The behavior of a leader is dependent on his or her environment or the behavior of his or her members, because it is incumbent upon the leader to direct, to motivate, to guide the group, to manage the group in order to accomplish a certain task or mission that improves the organization. Next, who can be a leader? One who inspires and motivates others to perform, create, and innovate can be a good leader. Sometimes, a good leader is a good follower because he leads through example. He show to the members that he is not a tyrant, okay? That he performs, he creates, he helps, and he motivates others in order to perform, in order to accomplish certain tasks. In this diagram at the lower quadrant of the slide, 5 essential leadership skills. Communication. A good leader can verbalize his thoughts, his ideas, and convey those ideas to his or her members. Okay? He is effective if he is a good communicator. Creativity. A good leader is creative because who wants to follow a boring leader? Okay? Members are also affected if their leader is dull or boring. That's why a good leader is a creative leader. Next, motivation. If the members are weak, okay, they are not motivated, then tasks will be um, piling, okay? There will be no accomplishment, no direction in an organization. That's why it is important for leaders to motivate their members. Feedback. A good leader accepts constructive criticism, okay? Accepts feedback in order to know that their actions is according to what is needed in the company, or it is what is needed to perform a certain task. Next is positivity. A good leader is positive because sometimes negativity affects the organization or the members. That's why a good leader must be an example. He must show to the members that he cannot be affected by the dilemma or problem that they have encountered. Why is it important to learn about leadership? We learn leadership qualities in order to develop the best qualities according to our personality. Okay? So in a certain situation, there is no hard and fast rule. There is no standard. You can combine leadership qualities. You can combine leadership theories. Okay? If a certain situation calls for an immediate action, then utilize action-centered leadership. So if a certain situation calls for an investigation, then utilize another leadership theories. Okay? This is very important in order for the leaders to develop leadership qualities according to their personality. Now, let's go to the 10 characteristics of a good leader as defined by the Center for Creative Leadership. First, integrity. A good leader's integrity must be beyond reproach. This is very important in order to gain the respect of your members or the community. Next, ability to delegate. A leader cannot do everything alone. He must know how to delegate. He must learn the value of delegation because sometimes there are tasks that needs special skills. Okay? For example, a task for information technology. And what if the background of the leader is he is a nurse or he is a doctor? He has no background for IT. So that is why it is important to delegate those tasks to a specific member that knows how to do it. Next, communication. A good leader must verbalize his thoughts, his ideas, share his experiences to his or her members in order to effectively, harmoniously work with each other. Next, self-awareness. A good leader is self-aware about his or her limitation. Okay? He is not close-minded. A good leader is open-minded. And then next, gratitude. A good leader is grateful that he has a chance to lead a certain team or group. Another characteristic is learning agility. A good leader is smart, okay, because there are certain situations that need quick thinking and quick action. A good leader can recognize, can detect early on what needs to be done. Next, influence. If you are a leader but you have no influence, then you are useless because you cannot give direction to your members to act. Influence is vital in leadership. Next, empathy. A good leader must feel the needs of the member. Okay? He must help the members. Another characteristic, courage. A good leader must be strong, must be courageous, must be brave in order to face hard situation and lead his team or members. And lastly, a good leader is respected and he respects his members and also his members respects him or her. So, introduction. This subject has been studied for hundreds of years and it reveals many success stories. So, as a student, it is incumbent upon you to learn these leadership styles and then apply the style that suits you. Okay? So, leadership theories can be studied in two ways. Early studies that focuses on character and personality. And then later studies focuses on what leaders do. These studies were created to analyze the good qualities in a good leader. So, in this diagram, you can see the 6 basic qualities that a leader must possess. Okay? Honesty and integrity, motivation, emotional maturity, self-confidence, cognitive ability or creativity, and then achievement driven. Okay? If you are a leader, your integrity should be beyond reproach. Okay? It must be intact in order for your members to have a respect towards you. And then, one important aspect of leadership is you should motivate your members to act, to finish the task. Okay? And then, emotional support to your members. And then, you should be brave and confident in whatever you do. Okay? You must be smart. You should have a quick action and reaction. Okay? And you must be a result-driven person in order to be a good leader. Now, let's go to the four types of leadership theories. First is the contingency theory. Okay? It depends on the happening of a certain event. So, it denotes that a particular style doesn't suit all situations. Okay? Success comes not only because of leadership, but also it involves several factors. Okay? It means that this theory is dependent on the happening of a certain event, and that certain event has many factors. It is multifactorial. That's why it is coined contingency theory. Next is situational theory. It depends upon the situation. The circumstances decide a leader's behavior. Okay? Depends upon a situation. Third is transactional or exchange theory. It is defined when there is action being made between leaders and the followers. Okay? This idea denotes working together. Transactional. Okay? Exchange of ideas. Okay? Action is accountable only when the performance is above or below this level. Next is transitional theory. Link between a leader and his follower. The leader encourages his followers to increase their motivation as they understand the task overall. Okay? So, this theory contemplates a transition. Okay? If the leaders and followers or members understand each other, understands the situation in its entirety, okay, it becomes the basis of their action. Now, let's go to the 10 leadership styles or theories. Okay, we will be discussing an in-depth discussion in the succeeding slides. Okay, first is the action-centered leadership. Next, the Blake-Mouton managerial grid. Next, Dunham and Peirce's leadership process model. Next, Fiedler's contingency model. Next theory, French and Raven's 5 form of power. Next theory, Hersey-Blanchard situational theory. Next, Tannenbaum-Schmidt leadership continuum. Next, Lewin's leadership style framework. Next theory is the path goal theory. Lastly is Zinger and Folkman's 10 fatal leadership laws. Okay? Okay. Now, let's discuss the theories that we have mentioned individually. This particular theory is called action-centered leadership. So, action-centered leadership model presented by John Adair back in 1973 is a notable theory because it can help reconcile the various goals and desires of individuals. The model can be described by how it divides leadership into areas of task, team, and individual. Okay? So, the leadership style is composed of 3 areas: task, team, and individual. Harmony among the 3 might not always be the easiest goal to reach, but it is the job of the leader to make it happen. Every leadership role is developed because there is a goal in mind, okay? And someone needs to be in charge of directing the team toward that goal, okay? That's why the title of their theory is action-centered leadership, okay? Because it is centered in action. Such a goal can be rather general, such as simply running a profitable business, while other goals will be very specific, like developing a new product to launch to market by the end of the year. Speaking of the variety of tasks that are possible for a leader to work towards, one of the most important jobs of the leader is to actually define and identify the task at hand. Okay? As a leader, you must set parameters. Okay? Identify tasks, define the metes and bounds of the task. Okay? Among the other important parts of the task, including identifying milestone along the way that needs to be met, establishing who is responsible for which part of the task, and what will be defined as success in the end. Okay? As the leader, you must be concerned in the first and last of the task. Okay? You must define the task in its entirety. Okay? You must have a holistic approach. The main aim, the monitoring progress and making sure that the group is getting closer and closer to accomplishing the task. It falls upon the leader and is an important part of the action-centered leadership model. Okay? The leader must be guiding the members, okay, in accomplishing the task, okay? And then he must set parameters, identify tasks, define tasks in its entirety. A holistic approach must be used. Traditionally, leading the team is what most people think of as being a leader. However, in this model, the leader should define how the team works together, such as communication standards and methods for resolving conflict. Okay? And then encouragement is another important part of the action-centered leadership plan, especially for long-term projects. That's why teamwork is essential in this model because the leaders and the members are very important in accomplishing certain tasks. Next is the mistakes. Forgetting about individuals within the team is probably the most common leadership mistake, okay? That is made by managers in all areas of business, okay? Forgetting individuals, okay? Leaving members, okay? Because sometimes left out members can make or break a team. It is tempting to just treat each individual as a robot who is programmed to only do what is best for the organization. But the real life is just not that simple. Individual people have varying desires, fears, experiences, motivations, and etc. Okay? Everyone is unique, okay? And because of this uniqueness, everyone can contribute something, okay, in their own terms. There is no man who is an island, okay? You cannot do everything. That's why participation is very important. Even though you are the leader, you cannot do everything. That's why you need to delegate. And you need to make your members feel that they are important. Okay? One mistake of a leader is forgetting about the individual members. Now, 3 fields of leadership. Action-centered leadership is a popular leadership model to follow in large part because of the simplicity that it offers. Just by understanding the basics of the 3 areas of leadership provided in this model, task, team, and individual, a leader will be well on the way to a successful project. Okay? Because of this model which is very simple, because as a leader, you just need to define the task, then the team, and the individual player. So that is why most often this leadership style is utilized. Okay? So each of these 3 areas is vitally important, and it will be difficult to succeed in one area without the support from the others. Now, let's talk about another leadership style, the Dunham and Peirce's leadership process model. So, according to this model, Leadership process model doesn't necessarily seek to define leadership, but it does the job indirectly. Okay? Leadership will never be simple, but using this model is a good way to get your head around the various moving parts and hopefully bring it into better focus in your mind. Okay? So in this model, it contemplates that a leadership role is very hectic, very tedious. Okay? It is not that simple. There are 4 factors that play a role in leadership process according to this model. First is the leader, then the followers, next is the context, and then finally the outcome. So, as you can see in this diagram, these are the 4 elements of Dunham and Peirce's leadership process model. Okay? The leader is one important element, and then another, the followers, and then the context, and then the result. Leader, the person in charge of a project or team, regardless of what their title may be. That person may be referred to as the owner, the manager, the president, the vice president, or any other title that confers power and responsibility. So the operative word is conferment of power. Okay? The person responsible. Then if you have these qualities, then you are the leader. Next, the followers. The people who are being led. Generally, this will be employees of the company in question. Most commonly, the followers for a specific manager fall within a group or division of the company. So the followers are the members, okay? They are the employees, the rank and file employees. The performance that the leader is able to coax out of the followers will largely be responsible for the outcomes that are to be achieved. Next is context. Refers to the circumstances under which the leader is managing his or her team. Okay, it is based on the situation. Whether it is a project that will run for predetermined length of time or simply employees working on a day-to-day basis. The context of leadership plays an important part in what style of management is going to be most successful. Next is the outcome or the result. The results of any project or task that has been worked on by the followers under the direction of the leader. All of the aspects of leadership are interconnected in one way or another by a circular rather than linear relationship. So, your actions as the leader will affect your followers. Plus, your followers' actions are likely to affect you as a leader and your management style. Plus, learn from your team and how their actions dictate the context and the outcome. Okay? Your action will affect your followers. Likewise, your followers' action will affect you as a leader. And then both your actions and the action will determine the outcome and context of the case. So a better chance of success will be had if all these elements are working together. Okay? Things that are done to help the team and empower the individuals on a team can serve to improve future outcomes, while any negativity is likely to manifest in unwanted ways. Okay? So as you can see in this diagram, the elements of this leadership style is working together. It is called the leadership process. Okay? It is a circular diagram. Now, let's go to some of the important lessons which will teach the leaders and managers in a variety of settings. Okay? Grow relationship within the team. So, when the relationship are strong from the top down, communication will benefit and the team should work more efficiently as a whole. Let the people do what they do best. Okay? This is the key for any leaders, no matter what context they are working in. Okay? If your members are expert in their field, okay, let them be. Let them work. Then, when people are able to spend time working on projects that they feel comfortable with and that match up with their skill sets, they tend to be happier and perform better. When leaders fail to consider the skills of their people, it should be no surprise the result is lag. Okay? Because if you give a certain task to a member, that task and that member should coincide. Okay? The task should suit the member's skill. Otherwise, it will be a dilemma for the member and the result will be catastrophic. Next, offer feedback. This point goes along with the point regarding relationships among the team. Feedback is valuable because it helps to steer the members of the team in the right direction in a positive way. Okay? Positive feedback, positive constructive criticism. Okay? It's very important because it brings the team in the right direction. Okay? Act ethically and honestly. Like what I've said before, integrity is very important. Your integrity must be beyond reproach. The circular nature of leadership dictates that it is vitally important to act with a high degree of honesty on a regular basis. When deceit creeps into the system, it is likely to spread and have a negative effect throughout the organization. So, conclusion. Leadership is complicated and sometimes scattered and chaotic. But the Dunham-Pierce leadership process model does a good job of highlighting the key points and identifying how they all affect one another. Okay? So, in this leadership model, it contemplates that the elements of leadership are scattered and chaotic. However, this model highlights important points, okay? Define parameters in order to be an effective leader. Another leadership style is the Blake-Mouton managerial grid. Blake-Mouton managerial grid is a popular framework for thinking about a leader's task versus person orientation. When you recruit a new member, what's your priority? Is it to focus on tasks by explaining first the objectives to him or her? Or do you spend time understanding his strengths and interests so you can give him tasks that he will enjoy? So let's understand the model of Blake-Mouton managerial grid based on two behavioral dimensions. Okay? First is concern for people. Then second is concern for the task or the result. Okay? The first contemplates leadership involves people. Okay? It is the degree to which a leader considers team members' needs, interests, and areas of personal development when deciding how best to accomplish a task. And then, based on the result, it is the degree to which a leader emphasizes concrete objectives, organizational efficiency, and high productivity when deciding how best to accomplish a task. Okay? So, the first behavioral dimension is that the leader is people-oriented. Okay? He maximizes the ability of his members. He is concerned with the skills of his members. While the second behavioral dimension is the result-driven leader. Okay? He emphasizes the objectives of the task. Okay? The organizational efficiency, the cultural structure, the productivity. Okay? Now, in this diagram, you can observe the different classification of a manager or leader based on this grid. Okay, this is the Blake and Newton's leadership grid. whether this classification type of a leader is task oriented or people oriented. Okay, so in the circle in the middle, the classification is middle of the road manager. It concerns of medium people and task. It is balanced. It focuses on work output as well as people morale. And the upper right quadrant of the square is the team manager. Okay, concerns of high people and high task. And then at the left side of the quadrant of the square is the country club manager, concerns of high people but low task. Okay, so below the quadrant at the left side is the impoverished manager or leader, which is concerns of low people and low task. And then at the right lower quadrant of the square is the authority obedience manager, which concerns of low people but high task. Okay, so this diagram is the grid of Blake and Newton's leadership. Authority or compliance management is the opposite of the country club management position, also known as the authoritarian or authority compliance. Okay, this leadership style is somewhat controlling, okay, tyrannical managers. People in this category believe that their team members are simply a means to an end. The team's needs are always secondary to its productivity. So it focuses on productivity, doesn't care about the members. Next is team management, offers the best of both worlds. This manager is able to successfully juggle the needs of the organization as a whole with the needs of the individual employees involved. Okay, this involves the balancing act between the company and the employees. Team management is the ability of an individual or an organization to administer and coordinate a group of individuals to perform a task. In the real world, things aren't always as black and white as they can appear on a grid, and managers often adopt the middle of the road management approach, okay, as you can see in the grid that we have discussed. The Blake-Mouton managerial grid is a good starting point for understanding the basic leadership options that a manager has when dealing with their employees. The real benefit of using the Blake-Mouton managerial grid comes when you start to look at it in terms of 4 quadrants and what each of those means for the manager. There are 4 possible quadrants that a management can do. Okay? Impoverished management, in this case, the manager is failing both in terms of the task and the people and is not a desirable position. The managers with this leadership style exerts minimum effort to get the work done by the subordinates. Okay, so management is lax. Okay, they have minimal concern for both the people and production, and they function merely to preserve their jobs and seniority. So in this case, the managers are lazy, they are lax, they don't have direction. Okay, they don't care about the employees nor the production of the company. Next is the country club management. Most employees will love their manager when this kind of system extinguishes people and low result. The country club or accommodating style of manager is most concerned about her team's members' needs and feelings. She assumes that as long as they are happy and secure, they will work hard. So in this style, it contemplates that if the management takes care of its members, then those members will work hard for the company. Now, let's go to another leadership theory, the Fiedler's contingency model. Introduction. The Fiedler's contingency model was created in the mid-1960s by Fred Fiedler, a scientist who studied the personality and characteristics of leaders. The model states that there is no one best style of leadership, okay? There is no best style. Instead, a leader's effectiveness is based on the situation. So, it contemplates a situational approach. This is the result of two factors. First, leadership style. Second, situational favorableness, also called situation control. So in this diagram, you can see the Fiedler's contingency model. So leaders are selected on the suitability of their leadership style. So first, A, static leader is paired with situation A. So it match. And then so on and so forth. Leadership style. Fiedler believed that the leadership style is fixed and it can be measured using a scale he developed called the Least Preferred Coworker Scale, or LPC. The scale asks you to think about the person when you've least enjoyed working with. This can be a person who you've least enjoyed working with, your job or in education or in training. The idea of a leader who is unable to change his or her ways is referred to as a static leader. So this type of leader is a stagnant leader. In order to arrive at a result, the leader is supposed to rank the person on a scale of 1 to 8 on a variety of personality traits such as unfriendly to friendly and hostile to supportive. There are 16 of these rankings to be completed, after which the leader will be left with a score that they can use to identify where they fall within the leadership spectrum. The model says that task-oriented leaders usually view their LPCs more negatively, resulting in a lower score. Fiedler called these low LPC leaders. He said that low LPCs are very effective at completing tasks. They're quick to organize a group to get tasks and projects done. Relationship building is a low priority. However, relationship-oriented leaders usually view their LPCs more positively, giving them a higher score. These are high LPC leaders. High LPCs focus more on personal connections, and they're good at avoiding and managing conflict. They're better able to make complex decisions. So in this diagram, you can see the findings of the Fiedler model. Okay, so the basis of the rate is the performance, whether it is poor or good, and whether it is task-oriented or relationship-oriented. And then there are also levels of whether it's favorable, moderate, or unfavorable. And the basis would be the leader-member relationship, the task structure, and the position of power. Okay? Whether it is weak, low, poor, or strong. Situation favorableness. Next, you determine the situational favorableness of your particular situation. This depends on three distinct factors. But before we go to that factors, let's discuss what is favorableness, okay? Otherwise known as advantageousness or profitableness or favorableness, positivity, okay? Positiveness, and so on and so forth. First is the leader-member relations. This is the level of trust and confidence that your team has in you. a leader who is more trusted and has more influence within the group is in a more favorable situation than a leader who is not trusted. Okay? There is an element of trust involved. How much power is the leader being given in a situation? Is their word final when disputes arises, or does the next level of management dictates the decision down to the leader? The model classifies this ranking into two categories: strong leader, one who has a high level of power within the organization, and then weak leader, someone controlled from above to a greater degree. Task structure. This refers to the type of task you're doing. Clear and structured, or vague and unstructured. Unstructured tasks, or tasks where the team and leader have little knowledge of how to achieve them, are viewed unfavorably. There are two kinds of tasks according to this model. First, structured tasks are detailed and clear as to what they expect from each of the team members. Second, unstructured tasks may be open-ended or undefined in terms of the goals and missions for the team. Next is leader's position power. This is the amount of power you have to direct the group and provide reward or punishment. The more power you have, the more favorable your situation is. Fiedler identifies power as being either strong or weak. Judges how good the relationship is between the team members and the leader, the type of project that is being undertaken, and the ranking on the other 2 points on the situational favorableness scale will determine what kind of leader it takes to match up with the job. While most of the time, a stronger relationship between leader and his team is going to be preferred, that will not always be the case. Now, let's summarize the Fiedler's contingency theory of leadership, the situational factors. By the way, this is the picture of Fred E. Fiedler, the founder of this theory. Okay? Task structure. It concerns about goal clarity, path simplicity or multiplicity, solution singularity or multiplicity, and then solution verifiability. And then the position of power. It concerns of the appointed by authority, direct or recommended action, affect, promotion, demotion, hire or fire, leader expertise, knowledge, and then conduct performance evaluation, and then the formal title. And the next is the leader-member relations. So, coworker and cooperation, there's conflict, reliability, trustworthiness, harmonious climate, leadership worker cooperation, then conflict, and then initiative by workers. Next is applying the Fiedler contingency model. First step is identify your leadership style. And then identify your situation. And then determine the most effective leadership style. So, the criticism of this model. There are some criticism of Fiedler contingency model. One of the biggest is lack of flexibility. Fiedler believed that because our natural leadership style is fixed, the most effective way to handle situations is to change the leader. He didn't allow for flexibility in leaders, okay? So, in this theory, it contemplates that leaders are fixated, okay? They cannot change their ways. That's why if there is a problem, we must change the leader, okay? Because such leader cannot be flexible. Then, for instance, if a low LPC leader is in charge of a group with good relations and doing unstructured tasks, and she has a weak position, for like the fourth situation, then according to the model, the best solution is to replace her with a high LPC leader instead of asking her to use a different leadership style. There is also an issue with the least preferred coworker scale. If you fall near the middle of the scoring range, then it could be unclear which style of leader you are. Now, another leadership theory is the French and Raven's 5 forms of power. Introduction. So in this diagram, you can see the 5 bases of power. First is the expert power. It is based on a person's superior skill and knowledge. Next is referent power. It is the result of a person's perceived attractiveness, worthiness, and right to respect from others. Another power is the coercive power. Comes from the belief that a person can punish others for non-compliance. Next is reward power. Results from one person's ability to compensate another for compliance. Then the legitimate power comes from the belief that a person has the formal right to make demands and to expect a compliance and obedience from others. So this is the French and Raven 5 bases of power. French and Raven defined social influence as a change in the belief, attitude, or behavior of a person, the target of influence, that results from the action of another person, an influencing agent. And they defined social power as the potential for such influence, that is, the ability of the agent to bring about such a change using available resources. So in this theory, it contemplates that the leader or the person or the agent in authority uses power to influence others. The 5 forms of power. Research was conducted by John French and Bertram Raven in 1959 and was important because it strived to determine what it is that makes someone powerful in a given setting. By describing each of the 5 types of power, you can assess your leadership capabilities. French and Raven identified those 5 bases of power as coercive, reward, legitimate, referent, and expert. This was followed by Raven's subsequent identification in 1965 of a 6 separate and distinct base of power, the informational power, or the use of information to affect other people. Out of these 5 power, formal power are coercive, reward, and legitimate. The personal power are expert and referent. Now, let's discuss these types of power one by one. Number 1, reward power. Reward power is based on the right of some to offer or deny tangible, social, emotional, or spiritual rewards to others for doing what is wanted or expected of them. So in this type of power, it contemplates that the leader gives incentives, okay, gives reward, okay, to people in order to accomplish certain tasks or missions. It is one of the more common type of power. The reward can take many different forms, but it is typically financial when talking about a leader within a company. If you have the ability to reward your team members with things like bonuses or raises, you have the ability to command their attention through those rewards. Assuming the team members you lead are interested in achieving the rewards that you can offer, they will be likely to work well with you in order to improve their chances of receiving the rewards. Okay? So these employees are given incentives, given reward in order to perform better. One of the problems that can arise from using rewards to command power is when you are not able to offer rewards that are appealing to those whom you lead. If you don't have the power in your company to offer financial rewards of any significance, you have to try to appeal to your team with other benefits and perks that might not be as desirable to them. In order for reward leadership to be effective, the leader must be able to offer rewards that the team members are striving to achieve. Okay? So what is common is the use of money as incentives and other benefits. Next is the expert power. Expert power is based on what one knows, experience, and special skills or talents. Expertise can be demonstrated by reputation, credentials, certifications, and actions. The effectiveness and impacts of the expert power base may be negative or positive. Okay? Today, if you have a knowledge over a certain subject, then you have advantage towards that certain topic. According to Raven, there will be more use of expert power if the motive is a need for achievement. If you are working on a project with a group of coworkers whom are normally your peers, but you happen to be an expert in that specific field that you are dealing with, you may find yourself elevated to a position of authority and power. Okay? It is axiomatic that knowledge is power. However, oftentimes this type of power is informal rather than official. You might find that you are commanding more attention in meetings and your opinion is being given more weight, but you might not have received any of other typical signs of leadership. Coming into power, so being an expert in your field is something that can have long-lasting benefits for your career, because this kind of power is more organic than others, such as reward power. It is more likely to remain long after a specific project or task is completed. When others know that you are an authority on a given subject, that reputation should follow you throughout your career. Okay? So, your credentials, for example, you are a doctor, then you are already an authority in the medical field because you are an expert. It creates power. Next is legitimate or title power. Legitimate power comes from an elected, selected, or appointed positions of authority and may be underpinned by social norms, okay? Just like in our political setting. This power, which means the ability to administer to another certain feelings of obligation or the notion of responsibility. Rewarding and punishing subordinates is generally seen as legitimate part of the formal or appointed leadership role, and most managerial positions in work organizations carry with them some degree of expected reward and punishment. This type of formal power relies on position in an authority hierarchy. Within organizations, legitimate power tends to fall with the people who hold titles like owner, CEO, executive, and other similar positions. This kind of power can be extremely useful while it is held, but it tends to go away as soon as the title is taken back and given to someone else. Okay? It is typical during election that powers are given to elected or appointed officials and then taken away when they are defeated during an election. Legitimate power originates from a target of influence accepting the power of the influencing agent, whereas behavioral change or compliance occurs based on target's obligation. One who uses legitimate power may have a high need for power, which is their motivator to use this base for change in behavior and influence. Now, let's go to another type of power, coercive power. Coercive power uses the threat of force to gain compliance from another. Force may include physical, social, emotional, political, or economic means. Coercion is not always recognized by the target of influence. Okay? Classic example is blackmailing. This type of power is based upon the idea of coercion. The main idea behind this concept is that someone is forced to do something that he or she does not desire to do. Okay, there is compulsion. There is blackmailing. Okay, there is use of force. The main goal of coercion is compliance. Leaders control their team members by the ability to take things away rather than reward. If you can fire someone based on their lack of performance on the team, for example, you have coercive power to influence their actions. They are likely to try to impress you and meet your expectations in order to keep their job. In many cases, coercive power is only good enough to get people to do the minimum required to avoid punishment. Unlike reward power, where team members may strive for excellence in order to achieve certain rewards, coercive leaders are more likely to get the bare minimum from their team, who is simply hoping to stay out of trouble. Now, last type of power is the referent power. Referent power is rooted in the affiliations we make and or the groups and organizations we belong to. This is the power of association. As referent power emphasizes similarity, respect for an agent of influence says superiority may be undermined by a target of influence. Use of this power based on its outcomes may be negative or positive. An agent for change motivated with a strong need for affiliation and concern of likability will prefer this power base and will influence their leadership style. It can be compared to an X factor because it is power that does not come for any obvious reason. Frequently, those who have referent power are simply well liked by others based on their attitude, charm, or even good looks. Okay? It is the likability of an individual. Okay? They don't necessarily have any logical reason for having come to power, yet they still hold sway over many people for some reason. Okay? This person has charisma. That's why he can influence another person. If you are naturally a person that others gravitate towards and want to talk to, there is a good chance you already have a measure of referent power. Understanding what kind of power you have as a leader and why you have it is a valuable lesson that can be used to better lead people. Most likely, you will have some combination of the 5 types of power that are outlined above. Think about what kind of power you already have in your position and what kind of power you should be working toward achieving to further your career. So as a leader, you must utilize those types of power. There is no singularity approach, okay? You can combine those types of power. Another leadership style that you can utilize is the Hershey-Blanchard situational leadership theory. This theory is one that is based around variable leadership, depending on a variety of circumstances. When a leader is able to adapt to the situation as quickly as possible, everyone will benefit in the end. So, in this type of theory, it contemplates that the leader must be adaptive to the changing time. Situational leadership theory, or the situational leadership model, is a model created by Paul Hersey and Ken Blanchard, developed while working on management of organizational behavior. The theory was first introduced in 1969 as life cycle theory of leadership. Situational leadership varies according to circumstances, maturity of a leader, knowledge, and skills. What are the advantages of this type of leadership? The simplicity of the theory makes it easy to apply. The theory has simple scales that a leader can use to give a thumb-in-the-wind assessment of what leadership style to use. Maturity and competence of the group are often overlooked factors in good leadership, and it helps to focus on this. What are the cons? The theory may not be applicable to managers as administrators or those with limited power, but structurally in a leadership position. There are situations in which the theory may be less applicable, such as those involving time constraints and task complexity. Testing of the theory doesn't seem to bear out the predictions. Life cycle theory leadership was renamed situational leadership theory. There is no single or best style of leadership. So, this leadership style contemplates that it depends on the situation. There is no best or single approach in leadership style. Effective leadership is task relevant. Leaders adapt their leadership style to their maturity, ability to take responsibility for the task, relevant education or an experience of an individual or group for the task. So, experience plays a vital role in this type of leadership style. Two fundamental concepts: leadership styles and maturity levels of individual or group. In leadership styles, the amount of task behavior and the relationship behavior plays a role, okay, in this leadership style. So, in this diagram, you can see the elements of the leadership styles, okay, like telling, selling, participating, delegating. This is an example of a situational leadership, adopting a leadership style according to the maturity levels of the subordinates. For behavior of leadership style, S1 or the telling, characterized by one-way communication. S2 or selling, attempts to convince the group. S3 or participating, the leader shares decision making with the group. S4 or delegating, the leader is still involved in making decisions. For maturity levels of the group, M1, basic incompetence or unwillingness in doing the task. M2, inability to do the task but willing to do so. M3, competent to do the task but do not think they can. M4, the group is ready, willing, and able to do the task. And then, 4 development levels match to the 4 corresponding styles of leadership. D1, low competence, high commitment. So, in S1, directing or telling, need to be shown how to do something, are enthusiastic and committed, willing to accept direction, need direction and supervision. D2, some competence, low commitment. S2, coaching or selling, need direction and supervision, need support and praise, involvement in decision making. D3, high competence, low variable commitment. S3, supporting and encouraging, competent but who will still lack of confidence or motivation. They do not need much direction, need support and encouragement. And then D4, high competence, high commitment. S4, delegating or empowering, high levels of both competence and commitment, both able and willing to work by themselves with little supervision or interventions. So this is the diagram of Hershey-Blanchard situational leadership theory, or task behaviors. Okay? The styles are participating styles, share ideas, followers able, unwilling, not confident. And then selling style, explain decisions, followers unable but willing and confident. Next is delegating styles, turn over decisions, followers are able, willing and confident. And then lastly is the telling styles, give instructions, followers unable, unwilling, not confident. Okay? And then it can be high or low. The key characteristic of effective leadership: to access the situation correctly, and then select your approach, and then apply the appropriate style, and then continuously review your choice. Now, let's go to another leadership style, the Tannenbaum and Schmidt leadership continuum theory. Okay? As you can see, these two are the father of this theory. Robert Tannenbaum, okay, born 1916, died 2003. And Warren H. Schmidt, born in 1920 and died in 2016. Tannenbaum and Schmidt leadership continuum model shows the levels of freedom that a manager chooses to give to a team and the level of authority used by the majority. Tannenbaum and Schmidt concentrated more on delegation and freedom in decision-making to subordinates and thereby on the team development. As the team's freedom increases, the manager authority decreases. This is a positive way for both teams and managers to develop. Okay? In these leadership styles, it contemplates that powers are delegated, powers are given to the members in order to accomplish a certain task. Manager-oriented leadership. Here, the leader acts more like a dictator, telling the team members what to do and leaving very little or no room for negotiation. Most commonly, this is a strategy employed by leaders who are dealing with an inexperienced team or a tight deadline that they have to meet. However, a typical leader will leave at least a little room for discussion and collaboration. Next, team-oriented leadership. This is type of leadership where leader provides his or her team with plenty of flexibility and encourages collaboration and sharing of ideas. This is applied to the team that has high experience and acumen in a given area. This kind of leader must have a great deal of trust in their team to allow such freedom. This is the diagram of Tannenbaum-Schmidt leadership continuum. So it is broken down into two: manager-centered leadership and subordinate-centered leadership. In manager-centered, by use of authority, and in subordinate-centered leadership, by giving freedom. Okay? First is tells. Manager makes a decision and tells the team. Next is sells. Manager makes a decision and sells it to the team. Next, suggest. Manager presents suggestions but invites questions from the team. Next, consults. Manager makes decision, consulting team before making a final decision. Next is joins. Manager presents problem, gets team ideas, then makes the decision. Next is delegates. Manager defines limits, then asks team for decision. Lastly is abdicates. Manager allows full freedom to explore options and make the decision. Tannenbaum and Schmidt define 7 levels of delegated freedom, which moves from manager-oriented to subordinate-oriented. As team develops, levels move from one to next. The area of freedom increases and the need for manager's intervention decreases. following are the levels of the Tannenbaum-Schmidt leadership. First, manager takes decision and announces it. Only manager plays the decision-making role, no team involvement. Second, manager decides and then sells his decision to the team. No changes in decision, but team may raise some concerns. Third, manager presents decision with background ideas for the decision and invite questions. Team knows what options manager considered for his decision. More team involvement. Next, manager suggests provisional decision and invites discussion regarding the decision. Team can have a say on manager's decision. It can be changed based on discussion. Next, manager presents the problem or situation, gets suggestions, then decides. Team is free to come up with options. Manager decides on these options. Next, manager explains the situation or problem, defines the parameters, and asks team to decide on the solution. Manager delegated whole thing to the team, but still, manager is accountable for the outcome. Next, manager allows team to develop options and decide the action within the manager's received limit. Complete freedom level. Team does all the work, almost as what the manager does at level 1. Another leadership style is the Lewin's leadership style framework. So under this leadership style, it varies from person to person, but the same person can often use different styles and strategies in different situations in order to achieve maximum results. In 1930s, Kurt Lewin established 3 major leadership styles that have provided a springboard for more defined leadership theories. Okay? Under these leadership styles, it contemplates authoritarian leadership or autocratic, participative leadership or democratic, and then delegative leadership or laissez-faire. Okay? Under the authoritarian leadership, authoritarian leaders direct and control all activities without meaningful participation by other members of the team. Under participative leadership, participative leaders encourage group members to participate but retain the final say over the decision-making process. Lastly, the delegative or laissez-faire leaders give little or no guidance to group members. Based on the situation, any of these 3 leadership styles could be used to do the act or work. Likewise, of these 3 leadership styles could be wrong one for the job if it is used under incorrect circumstances. Authoritarian leadership. This type of leadership provides clear expectations for what needs to be done, when it should be done, and how it should be done. This style of leadership is strongly focused on both command by the leader and command of the follower. Okay? Typical example or classic example is the leadership in North Korea. It is authoritarian leadership. Authoritarian leaders make decisions independently with little or no input from the team members. Typically, there will be very little interaction between the leader and the team members. Example, the leader will pass down assignments and command to the team with specific instructions on how to get the job done. There are both positive and negative associated with this style of leadership. The positive effects. It can be an effective strategy when dealing with an inexperienced team who lacks the knowledge to take a more autonomous role in the project. Authoritarian leadership is best applied to situations where there is little time for group decision making or where the leader is the most knowledgeable member of the group. The authoritarian leadership can be a good one when the situation calls for rapid decisions and decisive actions. Now, the negative effects. An experienced team might push back against this type of leadership because it doesn't offer them the freedom and creativity that they have earned. This method is usually viewed as controlling, bossy, and dictatorial. Next is participative leadership. Both leader and followers jointly make decisions as the leader equalizes power and shares final decision making with the subordinates. It allows group members to contribute ideas and participate in decision making. Listen and allows inputs from group members. Enables group members to think creatively, feel engaged and motivated. This type of leadership will not work with every team. Thinking about the inexperienced team without strong leadership, their lack of experience could become a major problem. However, a team with moderate experience and plenty of enthusiasm could be just right for this option. Lastly is the delegative leadership. Delegative leadership is a management strategy geared toward sharing knowledge and responsibility across many levels of organization. It is the most hands-off from the leader's perspective, other than monitoring the progress of a given project and checking in the status of the work from time to time. Leader will likely leave the team members alone to do what they do best. Another type of leadership style is the path goal theory. If a leader is placed in charge of a team, it is always good to have a goal. It may be a short term, which may complete within months, or a long term, which takes years. For example, for creating a branding strategy. There must be a path to reach the goal. Always the path will be made of blocks and may be a short way or a long way. The team members must be creative and agile in order to stay in the path and get around the blocks. So this is the diagram of path goal theory. Define 3 responsibilities of leaders and then offers choices of 4 leadership styles to attain such goals. Okay? So first, leader responsibilities, and then clearing the path, and then removing obstacles, and lastly, offering rewards. So clearing the path. Clearing the path, this refers to the process of helping see the way from the start to the finish. An experienced leader should be able to help his or her team figure out the best path to reach the goals that they are charged with. And then, removing obstacles. Removing obstacles. Rare is the project that doesn't run into difficulties along the way. This could be as simple as providing the team with resources that they need to solve a problem, such as adding a new team member that brings a specific skill to the group, and then offering rewards. Motivation is a big part of success in any endeavor, but especially in ones that take place over the long periods of time. Whatever kind of motivation that a leader can offer, usually financial, but also including time off or other perks, can serve to maintain morale among the group and keep them charging ahead towards a successful conclusion. Leadership styles in path goal theory. These are directive, supportive, participative, and then achievement-oriented. So in directive, unstructured, interesting tasks, clear formal authority, and good group cohesion. Okay? The follower characteristics, inexperienced followers, they believe they lack power. They want leader to direct them. In supportive, the workplace characteristics are simpler, more predictable tasks, unclear or weak formal authority, poor group cohesion. And the followers' characteristics are experienced, confident followers. They believe they have power. They reject close control. In participative, the workplace characteristics, unstructured, complex tasks. Formal authority could be either clear or unclear. Group cohesion could either be good or poor. And then the follower characteristic, experienced, confident followers. They believe they have power. They reject close control, preferring to exercise power over their work. And then achievement-oriented, workplace characteristics, unstructured, complex or unpredictable tasks, clear formal authority. Group cohesion could either be good or poor. Follower characteristics, experience, confident followers. They think they lack some power. They accept the idea of the leader setting their goals and have a lot of respect for the leader. In this diagram, it shows the path goal leadership process. First, leader identifies employee needs, and then appropriate goals are established. After that, leader connects reward with goals. Then, leaders provide assistance on employee path towards goals. And then, employees become satisfied and motivated, and they accept the leader. After that, effective performance occurs. And then, both employees and organization are better able to reach their goals. Zinger and Folkman's leadership theories. Okay, this is another leadership style. Zinger and Folkman's 10 fatal leadership flaws. Perfection is more likely an unattainable goal where consistency and steady improvement is not. A wise leader will critically analyze him or herself and try to decipher their flaws, hence presenting the best version of themselves. Also, he or she should be able to admit and confess their flaws rather than overlooking it because a huge responsibility is laid over him. Considering this, Zinger and Folkmans decided to formulate 10 fatal flaws that even the greatest leaders of the world possess. Here are the 10 fatal leadership flaws of Zinger and Folkman. Lack of energy and enthusiasm. Accept their own mediocre performance. Lack clear vision and direction. Have poor judgment. Do not collaborate. Do not walk the talk. Resist new ideas. Don't learn from their mistakes. Lack personal skills. Fail to develop others. Lack of energy and enthusiasm. Leader must be always enthusiastic and energetic. He must always cheer the group. If the leader is not cheerful and energetic, the project may fail. Okay? So if the leader is boring, if the leader is lazy, okay, then the members will also be affected. Okay? So the task will be unfinished. And then, accept their own mediocre performance by setting the bar as low as possible and then claiming victory when they step over it. This kind of leader won't be responsible for taking the organization to new heights. In order to find real achievement, it is important that leaders doesn't settle for less. Next is lack clear vision and direction. A leader is clearly not a leader if he doesn't have a clear vision and direction. They are simply a follower of high-ranking leaders. This approach to leadership might require confidence and determination because the choices that are made might make the leader prone to criticism in case of setbacks. Next, have poor judgment. Making decisions and proper judgments is at the heart of a good leader. A good leader will have a knack for making a right call, while the poor manager will fall short in this area. Next is don't collaborate. Just because someone is put in the position of leader, he must not ignore the input of others. Smart leaders know collaboration is an opportunity to get valuable insights from other intelligent people, further the cause of the organization as a whole. Next, don't walk the talk. This is one of the classic mistake done by everyone. The leader must follow the rules put up by him. Only when they are willing to play by their own rules will they be seen as having integrity. Another characteristic of a bad leader is they resist good ideas. Resisting good ideas of others is typical mistake of a bad leader. It shouldn't matter where the idea came from as long as it is genuinely in the interest of the team and the whole organization. Next, learn from mistakes. According to Zinger and Folkman's leadership theory, if you will not learn anything from mistakes, then it will repeat your mistakes and you will lose every time. It's essential to rewind and improve yourself from mistakes. Next, interpersonal skills. There are generally 4 interpersonal skills that is important for leadership and management, like empathy, self-awareness, managing emotion, and listening skills. Next is fail to develop others. The best leaders are more concerned with the growth of those on their team than they are their own development. Selfish leaders will typically be short for their positions as the performance of their team is going to suffer. So try to develop others instead of causing failures, depressions, and anxiety. Learn and lead others. Conclusion. Hence, a great leader must justify his position atop by exhibiting impeccable leadership skills. The Zinger and Folkman's 10 fatal leadership flaws helps one to rectify their flaws and carry out his or her responsibility in the best way. This proves to be useful for anyone in a leadership position, and they surely have to look into this and deeply regard the points. Okay? So in Zinger and Folkman's 10 fatal leadership flaws, it contemplates the acts that should not be done by a leader. To be a leader is a noble act that is worthy of respect and regard. To have an opportunity to lead is an achievement in itself, a self-fulfilling achievement. Just like what I'm doing, teaching you, guiding you, leading you has been one of the honor of my life. And many years from now, I will look back to this day and will say to myself that I did good in this lifetime because I was able to serve you. So thank you, my students. Before I end my lecture, let me read to you this quote. True leaders don't create followers. They create more leaders. So that ends our lecture regarding leadership. I hope you learned something, and I hope that you can share your knowledge to your peers and your group. So thank you, future leaders. Thank you for listening. God bless us all.